Welcome everyone again. Take a moment to welcome the group here on Zoom, being here. If y'all want to take a moment, if you're don't have your video on, you want to take your video, put your video on and say hello to everybody on Zoom. There are now 36 people on Zoom. Just to let you know. So good. And I will do my best to speak to both groups as we go through the evening. If y'all want to stand up or stretch or say hello, just wave at each other. You can do that here. Don't get any closer, just wave at each other. And do that. So we can do that. Yeah, there we go. And welcome anybody that's new here, anybody that's new on the Zoom call tonight. I'm Clyde. I'm one of the several Dharma teachers that we have here at Insight Meditation Community of Charlotte, and we welcome you. We're trying this again. We're doing this hybrid thing and coming back and doing this. And so we're kind of in I kept going like, well, wow, we thought, who thought, 6 months ago that we still be doing this, that we'd still have masks on, that we'd still be uncertainty, that we'd be going like, well, social distancing, and particularly after we've gotten through vaccines and booster shots and all this, that we're still in kind of this place of uncertainty. And we also, the longer it goes on, the more it does create more stress. I mean, it's stressful itself, but the more it goes on, the more stressful it becomes. It keeps layering on there. We think, there's a little bit, we've all been, most of us, hopefully everybody here's been vaccinated, supposed to be. You get a little bit of reprieve, but then you hear different things. You repeat friends and stuff. And some friends have still continue to get COVID. And so we have to be aware of that. But tonight, I want to talk about, and that was the whole thing. I was like, well, what, we're still in this situation. What can we do? What can we do? What does our practice offer around this, about dealing with this? And I wanted to talk about, and it's always a good time this time of the year too. There's this practice that kind of permeates our teachings, our practices. It's a concept. It's an energy, and it is one that I don't use enough. I don't use enough. I kind of use it like a New Year's resolution. I say it, and then I put it on the shelf, and then what happens? I kind of forget about it. So tonight I want to talk about something that can support us during this time, and that is this idea of the power of intention. And I'm going to talk about it briefly as in terms of, I want to talk about where it shows up in our teachings. And you're going to see it several. I'm just going to pick like 5 places that I've noticed that it shows up in our teaching and why it's important. And apparently there's something to it. There's an energy or something to it, because it's all in our teachings. And then we're going to talk about some ways how we can bring it into our lives. Because like I said, I don't use it enough in my life. And I think it's something that we could try to use in our lives to help support us during this time. So there's 5 ways that I'm going to talk about that intention shows up in the teachings. And the first one is in our bodies. The body does not move without intention. Now, it may twitch on its own, it may itch on its own, it may burn on its own. But if you're going to do movement, there is an intention before the body moves. And within the practice, when you go, particularly if you go on retreats and things, and you slow down and you begin to do walking meditation or just mindful movement and stuff, the slower you get, you can get to the point where you can see there is an intention. Even when I move my hand right now, there is an intention to move this hand before it will move. And he was either Jack Comerfield or Goldstein. When I was reading, he says he tried this on a retreat one time. He stood there waiting for an intention to arise to move. till he saw the intention to move. And he sat there for a long time until he saw that intention. So that's one of the things that you do in walking meditation and in practice. You see the intention. So that intention is always, there's two parts to movement, and it happens all the time. There's an intention and there's movement. So the body does not move on its own. So that's a pretty important concept there. The second way it shows up, another way it shows up, is that what we call right intention. And this is very specific. This is the second step in the Noble Eightfold Path, right after right understanding or right view. It's right intention. And right intention here, when I say specific, this has to do with, we say we want the intention of renunciation. And that's offsetting an intention of greed. We have the intention of goodwill, which offsets the intention of ill will or anger. And there's the intention of harmlessness that offsets the intention of harmfulness. So right there in the second of the Noble Eightfold Paths is right intention. And that's when you hear a lot about intention, you think of this one right here. This is the second step. We have these intentions, the intentions to not cause harm, the intention to treat everybody with loving kindness or goodwill. We have an intention to do that. Then if we keep going down the factors, the next two steps on the Noble Eightfold Path, this is the third place it shows up, right speech and right action. In right action, we talk about not taking life, not taking what is not given, and not involving in sexual misconduct. So the first, and then there's right speech. So in right speech, we want to be honest. My intention is to be honest. My intention is to be truthful. My intention is not to lie. So that's an intention there. The second one, my intention is to not take life, to not take what is not to steal, take what is not given. These come out pretty more drastic, like when you have a day-long retreat, or if you go on a retreat, you do the precepts. I undertake the precept to abstain from taking what is not given. That's an intention. I'm setting my intention. This is different than, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not do this. We are set as a practice. I'm setting this intention to live in this particular way. So that was the third way that is showing up, this idea of intention, the power of intention. Now, the fourth way that it shows up, and this is the biggie here, this is why it's so important, is if you go back to the first step in the Noble Eightfold Path of right view, mundane right view has to do with karma. And this is the law of cause and effect. And just to repeat that, if our words or actions are based on greed, hatred, or delusion, these are known as the three poisons of three defilements, they will result in unwholesome karma or suffering. They will result in unwholesome karma is called suffering. If they were based on non-greed or generosity, non-hatred or kindness, or non-delusion or wisdom, they will result in wholesome karma or non-suffering. That's a law of karma. But intention is the basis of all karma. The Buddha says, intention, I tell you, is karma. Intending, one creates karma by way of body, speech, and mind, or thoughts, words, and deeds. So this idea behind intention is karma. Intention is what's causing karma. And this karma is when we act out this unwholesome karma, that's causing our suffering. And it's based on intention. Ayakema says, karma is intention, and intention is now, which means karma is being made now in every waking moment. So whether we are aware of it or not, karma and intention is happening right now in every moment. It's happening. It's there. Philip Moffat says, practicing right intention is crucial to gaining peace and happiness. So that's the fourth way. And that's the powerful one of intention. The fifth way I want to share with you is I always like to kind of go, most of y'all know when I do some of this teaching, I like to look at the science, the current science. And in the book called Buddha's Brain, which many of you are familiar with that, Rick Hansen talks about how intention affects our brain. And he says, harmful intentions operate at all levels of the brain, from rage and fear released by the hypothalamus to subtle plans for payback constructed by the prefrontal cortex. But the same is also true of wholesome inclinations toward generosity, kindness, and insight. They ripple up and down the neuroaxis, from visceral brainstem energy for good causes to abstract ideals sustained by the prefrontal cortex. So it's running up and down the neural spine, not the spine, but in the brain. As you weave positive inclinations more deeply into the different levels of your brain, you increasingly push the three poisons, greed, hate, and delusions, to the margins. It's important to nurture good intentions at all levels of the neuroaxis and to cultivate the strength to carry them out. So we see this idea of intention. It's all through the starting of the Eightfold Path. It's part of how we move around. It's part of our brain. It can be, we can actually physically feel it in our brain, and it's part of karma. It's part of the karma. So this is a pretty concept of intention. I'm going to get this wrong. Santya Mimpham Rinpoche says, well, what are our intentions? In the Buddhist teachings, intention is a path or practice that is focused on how you are being in the present moment. It's a practice that is focused on how you are being in the present moment. You set your intentions based on understanding what matters most to you and make a commitment to align your worldly actions with your inner values. Would you like to be more compassionate, more generous, more forgiving, more patient, a better listener, or maybe less reactive? Intention is what sets our direction in life. Jack Kornfield says, setting a long-term intention is like setting the compass of our hearts. Our direction is clear. And Philip Moffat again says, being grounded in intention is what provides integrity and unity in your life. So this is a pretty powerful concept that's woven through our teachings. The teachers say it's a pretty important thing to work on. My question to myself is, then why don't I use it? Why don't I use it more often? It struck me. It's like a New Year's resolution. I come up with this great, here's my intention in life, whatever it happens to be, and I put it on a shelf, but I don't think about it again, maybe until next year when it's time to do New Year's resolutions again. So I think what I'm going to propose to you tonight is that we do a couple things. One, that we see whether this concepts work. I'm going to challenge everyone here, everyone in the room, everybody on there to test this out over the next few weeks. And the first thing you want to do is to kind of think about what's your highest intention. And intentions have, there's different levels here. There's this higher intention. I want to be a better listener. I want to be more patient, or I want to take care of sick people. It could be that. Intentions come down to, I want to focus on this breath during this meditation. But I want to talk about, to start out, let's talk about just the big one. What is your intention? What's your intention around your practice? That's the one I'm working with right now. What's my intention around my practice? What's important to you? Reflect on what is more is important to you. You might want to, going back to this, how do you want to be in this each moment? How do you want to show up? That's another way of looking at it. How do I want to show up each moment? I encourage you to kind of take your time to, don't go home and start writing out an intention. You can do that, but I'm saying, I like to let it percolate. I like to think about things and let them percolate for a while, maybe a week or so. You may want to talk with someone about that. So, say, well, what's important to me? And it could be something that's, important for your life. It could be just for the next 6 months. It could be for the next year, whatever, you might want to work on during this time. So let's try this. Let's set an intention. Then once it kind of settles, you might want to meditate about it or think about it. Then you might want to write it down. So the first thing I want to do is kind of come up with this, write it down. And then you may want to post it somewhere. Then you may want to tell someone that this is what you said you were going to do. I want to be more patient, or I want to meditate twice a day, or like this. If you tell someone, that's the idea of accountability. Kind of, I can go home, write it down, and put it over here in the corner. No one knows what I'm doing. And then I encourage you each moment to not each moment, but here's the way. We want to start bringing this into our lives. Like I said, I kind of put up on the shelf. I want to each morning state it. If you've written down, look at it and read it. And then in the evening, look at it and go, did I live in accordance with my highest intention today? Did I show up? If I want to be more of loving kindness, if I want to be more generous, was I generous today? Did an opportunity come up and I didn't take advantage of it? You don't want to judge yourself. This is a practice. This is our intention. To practice our intention is we want to learn from that. Oh, there was an opportunity. I didn't show up. I responded in anger when I wanted to respond with some patience. That's okay. Okay. I'm going to learn from that. Next time, I'm going to try to be a little bit more aware. The idea here is to bring this into our daily lives. So it doesn't become this New Year's resolution that we set out there and we forget. We go to the gym for 4 weeks, and then I got to go do something else. Every day we want to start thinking, am I living in accordance with my highest intention? Then what we want to do, and we're going to use our meditation and our mindfulness practice to help us with this. Because of meditation, we learn to be with what's going on in the present moment within us. We can begin to slow down, to see these intentions arising, what's arising in this moment, so that when we're off to cushion, when our mindfulness practice, we can see these moment-to-moment intentions. Gives us a chance to kind of pause. That's what mindfulness does, to be less reactive, to not react to something. Okay, if I'm going to react, am I reacting in accordance with how I want to show up? So we're going to use our meditation, our mindfulness practice as we work with this. But you come back, you can say, well, even during the day, am I living with my highest intention? So once we start working with it, once we start kind of doing this, I want to let you see, and this is what we want to practice with, is this helping me? Is this sustaining me? Jack Kornfield says, In these challenging times, amidst the pandemic, climate disruption, calls for social and racial justice, political division, and our own personal challenges, we can pause, quiet our minds, and dedicate ourselves to our best intentions. They even go on to say about this idea of giving us a place to ground. And this is what I want us to kind of work with. I challenge, y'all can work. With all the things that are going on, this is a place for us to ground, to come back to on a daily basis. Am I living with my highest intention? So whatever's going on out there, whatever's happening out there, here's a place I can come back to. Here's something I can come back to and not get carried away, not get buffeted by this and buffeted by that. I'm living within my best intentions. I'm making the effort. It's a practice. And I can, whatever's happening out there, let this sustain me, let this support me. And see, does it support you? Does coming back to this intention support you during this time? Do you get any comfort from it? Does it feel good to say, well, I know this is going on, but I'm living within my best intention. And really, that's what that's all we can do. That's how we show up. How I show up is all that I can really do. I can't control all that out there, but I can work on how I show up. And how I show up helps support me and sustain me through whatever is going on out there, whatever challenges we have during this time. Because we're still in the middle of this. We still have these unusual challenges, but we could do this without, in whatever circumstances we're in. So let your intentions support you and sustain you during these challenging times. Philip Moffitt says, right intention is simply about coming home to yourself. It's about coming home to yourself. It is a practice of aligning with the deepest part of yourself. You're aligning with the deepest part of yourself while surrendering to the reality that you often get lost in your wanting mind. We're not going to be perfect with this, because we all know in this practice that wanting mind is always there, and it's always going to be there, and it's always going to come up. It's going to cause us to want, crave. But we could come back and see if these intentions, we've set our intentions, it's my highest intention. Am I living on a daily basis with this intention? And does it support me? Does it help me during this time? And I'm saying this to say this is something we need to test out ourselves. Whatever the teachings say, whatever the teachers say, we need to see if this works for us. Does it help me during this time? But here's something in the practice that we can use and see if it works for us. Jack Kornfield, I really like the comment that Jack Kornfield does say at the end. He says, let it carry you. Let it carry you. Thank you for your attention tonight.